Hi, I'm Will. I'm a dad, and these are my thoughts. The presidential election. The presidency is the only elected office in the United States that is not elected through direct democracy. The United States is the only country in the world that uses an electoral college to elect its head of state. The electoral college, as far as I can tell, is the last vestige of slavery. If we think back to fifth grade social studies, those of you who didn't sleep through it will probably remember that in order to get the southern slaveholding states to join the Union, compromises were required. Three-fifths compromise, anyone? When a slave, so slaves were not allowed to vote. They weren't citizens, but they were still counted for the purpose of assigning the number of representatives to a state. If the slaves had been freed and allowed to vote and be citizens, the South would have refused to join. If the slaves were not counted, the South would have had very little representation because there were so few free white people in the South, and they would have refused to join. Because the slaves made up such a large percentage of the population, if the slaves were counted, the South would have had a crazy high number of representatives. The North wouldn't have agreed. So because the slaves, being property, couldn't vote, that left the South with very little voting power as a group. This resulted in the South to refuse to join the Union if they didn't get a more equal share of the power. This is where the three-fifths compromise comes from. This is why we have an electoral college. This was the only way the Founding Fathers could find to form the Union in the first place. Things are different now. It's 2024. Slavery is very much not a thing in the United States anymore, except for that whole prison loophole thing. People of color are citizens with all rights, privileges, and duties as the white population, except for that whole institutional racism thing problem. Because we do not have a parliamentary democracy like the Brits, we can't just let members of Congress hash it out. If the people elect the president, then they should actually vote for the president directly. One citizen, one vote. And that's my opinion.